let's discuss angle of elevation and angle of depression, right? So first, angle of elevation. So what is angle of elevation? Angle of elevation is made, for example, when someone is looking at something which is above his head level, or you can say which is something above his eye level. So you can see my eyes. So if this is my eye level, this is the x-axis, or you can say the head level. So this is your x-axis. So if someone is looking at something elevated, so the angle which the line of sight makes with the x-axis, so this angle is the angle of elevation. For example, I'm currently, standing in a room. So if I'm looking at the fan, so ye jo, my eyes are making the angle with the fan with the x-axis. My eye level is the x-axis. So this angle is the angle of elevation, right? मैं आपको एक example देता हूं on the board to further explain this. Let's say this is the ground. This is the ground level. And there is a bird flying in the air, right? Someone is standing here on the ground, right? So if he is looking at the bird, right? So obviously this is the line of sight, right? This is the line of sight. And the angle which the line of sight is making with the x-axis, so this is the angle of elevation. Simple as that, right? So the angle which the line of sight makes with the x-axis, this angle is the angle of elevation. Nothing complicated. And please remember that this is again application of a right angle triangle. So how does this form into a right angle triangle? So the height of the bird from the ground, ye wali jo height hai. So if you take the perpendicular distance, perpendicular distance is always at 90 degrees. So the height is always, perpendicular to the ground. So ye jo distance hoga, ye height from the ground, ye perpendicular hoga. So this would make a right angle triangle. So again, we will go for trigonometric ratios. If we have to find a length or, the distance of the bird from the man, or, if you want to find the height of the bird from the ground or anything, right? We'll discuss some questions as well. So this is angle of elevation. I hope I'm clear. The angle which the line of sight makes with the x-axis, right? So this is angle of elevation. So what is angle of depression? I'll give you another example. Opposite to this, let's say someone is standing at the top of his house, right? And he is looking at something, obviously below his eye level, below his head level. So actually he's looking into a depression, right? He's looking at something, below his eye level. He's looking down at something. So this would be the line of sight. And again, the same concept. This eye level is the x-axis. Now this is the x-axis. This is the horizontal axis. So beta, please remember that. Again, the same concept. The angle which the line of sight makes with the x-axis, this angle is the angle of depression. Students sometimes they make this mistake. वो क्या करते हैं? वो y-axis के साथ angle mark कर देते हैं, which is wrong, right? Don't mark this. This is not angle of depression. The angle which the line of sight makes with the x-axis. Remember that. This is the angle of depression, not this. This is wrong, right? So I hope this confusion is now gone. Either if it's angle of elevation or it's angle of depression, beta, both the angles are formed with the x-axis, right? You're looking in angle of elevation, you're looking at something elevated, so line of sight with the x-axis. In angle of depression, the same concept, you're looking at something, below your eye level in a depression, so line of sight, now this is your x-axis, right? Because you're standing here. So this is your angle of elevation. I've erased this so that there should be no confusion, right? So again, this is the height, and obviously this would make a right angle triangle, right? So now one more thing, beta. How would you enter this right angle triangle? Because again, we have to solve the right angle triangle. So how would you enter into this right angle triangle? So we have studied a concept of alternate angles. So what are alternate angles? Let's say you have two parallel lines and there is a transversal line, a straight line cutting the two parallel lines. So, it forms a Z. So this angle, let's say A, would be equal to this angle A by this concept of alternate angles. And the reverse, let's say we take the reverse Z. So this angle, let's say B, would be equal to this angle B. So this makes an alternate angle, right? So beta यही concept हम इधर apply करते हैं. So this is x-axis, and this is, he's standing on the ground, he's standing at the top of the house. So eye level is the x-axis. So ये ground है, obviously this would also be the x-axis. So x-axis and ये ground level, they are both parallel, right? They are both parallel. ये transversal line. So this makes a Z. So this is x, ये angle भी x होगा. So by the help of alternate angles, बेटा हम ये angle यहाँ पर shift कर देंगे. And that completes a right angle triangle. Angle भी आपके पास है, आपको distance from the base, from the house, foot of the perpendicular से यहाँ तक आपको, let's say आपको distance given है, you have to find the height of the house or height of the cliff, whatever the question would be. So important चीज ये है कि बेटा, what my experience is normally when the question comes, calculate the angle of elevation and angle of depression, students, they don't have that much clarity in what exactly is the examiner asking. So I hope I'm very clear what is angle of elevation, where would you mark that? If a figure comes out, if it's a figurative question, so you should be able to now mark where the angle of elevation is. And similarly, what is angle of depression? You should be absolutely clear. So if there is a figure given, you should be able to, correctly mark where is angle of depression, and hence you can, how to shift that angle inside the right angle triangle so that we can solve that right angle triangle. And whatever the question is, whatever, if you have to find some length, you should be able to solve that. Let's look into some questions. Let's look into this question. A kite flying at a height of 55 meters is attached to a string which makes an angle of 55 degrees with the horizontal. What is the length of the string? Right? So a very straightforward question. So let's try to, make a figure out of this. Okay? So it says a kite flying at a height of 55 meters. Let's say this is the ground. And let's say there's a kite flying. And it says, at the height of the kite is 55 meters, right? From the ground. So is attached to a string which makes an angle of 55 degrees with the horizontal. So this is attached with a string, someone is flying this kite, and it makes an angle of 55 degrees with the horizontal, right? So the statement is very clear. I think there's absolutely no confusion. There should be no ambiguity what the statement is, right? So it's very clear. It makes an angle of 55 degree with the horizontal. What is the length of the string? What is the length of the string? So we have to find this. So again, beta, remember that height is always perpendicular, right? It is perpendicular to the ground. So perpendicular means it falls at 90 degrees. So ये 90 degree का angle होगा. ये हमारे पास हमने length find करनी है. ये angle है. So quickly जरा हम trigonometric ratios देखते हैं. हमने लिखे हुए what was sine of the angle. Let's say हमने कोई भी angle लिखना है. So what was sine of the angle? That was opposite over hypotenuse. What was cos of the angle? That was base over hypotenuse. And what was tan x? That was opposite over base, right? So we better हमने trigonometric ratios already discussed किए हैं. Sin x is what? Opposite over hypotenuse. Cos x is what? Base over hypotenuse. Tan x is what? Opposite over base. Right? We've already discussed that in the previous video. अगर किसी ने वो वीडियो नहीं देखी बेटा, please go back. Just have a look at that ताकि आपके concepts जरा refresh हो जाए. Right? So in a right angle triangle, we go for trigonometric ratios. Very simple. It's hardly a 1 minute question. So first thing is first. Let's label this. 90 degrees के सामने वाली side hypotenuse सामने वाली side opposite and the side remaining is your base, right? So the question is, what is the length of the string? So कौन सी दो sides involve हो रही हैं? Opposite जो given है और hypotenuse जो हमने find करनी है, right? So opposite and hypotenuse हम sin लगाएंगे, sin of the angle. So but it's very simple. Sin of the angle is opposite 55 over hypotenuse x. So just simply cross multiply. X is equal to sin 55 degrees and this is equal to 55. So x क्या आ गया? This is, a multiple. Sin 55 is a number, is a value, we know that. इधर multiply हो रहा है, उधर जाके equation के divide हो जाएगा. So this is 55 over sin 55. So beta, take out your calculators and we will just simply solve. This is 55 divided by sine of 55. Don't forget to close the bracket. And this is 67.1 degrees. 67.1 centimeters, sorry. Because this is the length. So length is always in centimeters. अगर ये angle होता, let's say we have to find an angle, तो वो degrees है. Length is in centimeters, right? So simple as that. I hope the question is clear, the language is clear, the figure is clear. Let's have a look at another question. From the top of the tower of height 75 meters, a man sees two goats, both due west of him. If the angles of depression of the two goats are 10 degrees and 17 degrees, calculate the distance between them, right? So the concept is same. Let's try to first make a figure out of this and let's see what happens, right? Okay. Let's say this is a ground and there is a tower here. So man is, standing at the top of the tower. So from the top of the tower of height 75 meters, so the height is 75 meters, a man sees two goats. Let's say there are two goats. So a man is looking at two goats, right? Both due west of him. So we know this. Okay, what are the directions? Four directions: north, east, west, and south, right? North and south are opposite to each other. East and west are opposite to each other, right? So it's very simple. It says both due west of him. So west would be on the left. So both are due west of him, right? So if the angle of depression of the two goats are 10 degrees and 17 degrees, so angle of depression, right? We've already discussed, this is his eye level. So this is the x-axis level of that man. And he's now looking at in a depression, right? At something which is below his eye level, right? So let's say if it's looking at this goat and he is looking at this goat, right? So now the important part, which of the two goats have the greater angle of depression? But please remember that the closer the object is to you, you have to, bend your eye level more, you have to bend your neck more. So the angle of depression, the eye side, the line of sight, it gets away from your line of, the x-axis level. So the angle of depression gets more and more. So remember that the closer the object is, the more the angle of depression is. So this angle would be 17 degrees, right? I'll write here. This angle would be 17 degrees because the goat is closer to that man, right? Okay. So the goat which is, at a distance, और उसका angle beta हो जाएगा angle of depression, that would be 10 degrees, right? So we've already discussed, beta these are two parallel lines, ये line of sight, ये उसकी जो eye level है, and the ground, right? So they are parallel, x-axis or ये. So by the help of alternate angles, we'll shift this angle, ये 10 degrees हो जाएगा, and we'll shift this, so this will be 17 degrees, right? So that is how we'll shift the angles inside the triangle. Now beta we can all see that there are two right angle triangles. One is this smaller one and one is this bigger one, right? So this is not a right angle triangle. This is a scalene triangle, which is not a right angle triangle in simple terms. Achha, so let's focus on two right angle triangles which we identify kiye. So this is the smaller one. If we can find this distance, right? And if we can also find the distance of the bigger right angle triangle, the distance of the goat from the tower. And what we'll do is, the distance of the, the further goat from the tower, agar hum inko minus kar denge, to we'll get the distance between the two goats, right? So that is the concept. So we just have to apply trigonometry ratios 2 times. The first thing is first, mark the angles. Height is always at 90 degrees. So beta mark karte hain. Ye side hypotenuse. This is your angle के सामने side opposite. और ये आपके पास आ गई base, right? So कौन सी दो sides involve हो रही हैं? एक आपकी base involve और एक opposite. So we've already done trigonometric ratios. So opposite and base, ये आपके पास लगेगा tan. So tan of the angle is opposite over base, right? So beta just cross multiply this. अब हम solve कर लेते हैं. We've already done this many times now. This should not be a problem. ये तो जाके divide हो जाएगा. Tan 17 degrees. So the answer would be, मैं यहां लिख देता हूं, चलो यहीं लिख लेते हैं. So the answer will be, let's take the calculator. So this is 75 divided by tan 17 degrees, bracket close, and this is beta 245.314. 245.314. Again to 3 decimal places. The concept is beta because ये value हमने आगे use करनी है, so never ever round off in the middle of the question. Minimum 3 decimal places ताकि accuracy maintain रहे. Now taking a look at the bigger right angle triangle. So again 90 degrees के, forget about this line, right? So let's take the big right angle triangle. इसको raise कर देते हैं. So right angle के सामने वाली side, this is hypotenuse, the longest side of a right angle triangle. Now we'll take this angle. Angle के सामने वाली side is opposite, और जो side बच गई that is your base. Now हम y को लेंगे, right? अब हम y को लेंगे. ये तो हमने already find कर लिया. We've already got that. चलो. So कौन सी दो lines involve हो रही once again? Opposite and base जो हमने find कर लिया, right? So once again tan apply करते हैं. So tan of the angle is opposite over base y. Cross multiply कर देते हैं. So this is tan of 10 degrees. So beta y is what? Tan 10 is a value. Equation के तरफ जाके divide हो जाएगा. So quickly let's find the value from the calculator. So this is beta 75 divided by tan of 10 degrees, and which is 425.346. 425.346, right? So ये हमारे पास value आ गई y. Now what was the question? The question was calculate the distance between them, distance between the two goals. So this distance we've already found. So beta अगर हम bigger distance को x से minus कर देंगे, we'll get the distance between the two goals, right? So y minus x. So we'll just write y minus x. This will be the answer. So 425.346 minus 245.314, and this would give you minus 245.314, and this would give you 180, right? So 180 meters to 3 significant figures. So this is the distance between the two goats. I hope the question is clear. कमेंट्स में बेटा मुझे बताओ एक्सप्लेनेशंस आपको समझ आ रही हैं, एंड व्हाट अदर टॉपिक्स यू वांट टू सी द वीडियोस ऑन, और चैनल को सब्सक्राइब करो और इसके बेल आइकन को प्रेस करो।